We're in our 2008 Ford Taurus. We're putting in our universal Ford remote starter with a key in a box. It has a 80-bit key embedded in this transponder box. This system will work with any Ford out there that has keys like this or like this. You need 2 OEM keys to complete the programming on this installation. If you do not have 2 OEM keys, this will not work for you. We've unplugged our ignition harness and we have tapped the appropriate wires. I've separated the wires that we will be dealing with. I'm going to show you how to apply the taps as well. The first wire that we're going to use is the solid red. This is a positive 12 volt wire. We're going to place a T-tap on the wire and we're going to lock it in place. Our primary ignition is white with an orange stripe. Our accessory is violet with a green stripe, and our starter wire is blue with a white stripe. From this point on, we're ready to plug in our pre-terminated ends of our remote starter. We're going to start with the constant power wire, which is solid red. We're going to plug into our Crime Stopper red wire. I want to make sure the taps plug in correctly. Our primary ignition, which is white with an orange stripe, we're going to plug into our Crime Stopper pink wire. Our starter wire, which is brown on the Crime Stopper, is going to go to the vehicle's blue with a white stripe, not to be confused with a blue with a gray stripe. Our secondary ignition or accessory ignition is going to go to the violet with a dark green stripe. From this point, we've made all of the ignition connections required to start this vehicle. We're going to re-plug in the ignition plug and push it firmly until it locks. We've used our zip ties or wire ties, and we've routed our wires down the main ignition harness, and we've also pulled the black round wire down and we've routed it over here. We need to select an adequate ground for our system. To ground the system, we need bare metal. We don't want to put our ring terminal under any type of plastic or any other material other than metal. So we're going to use a self-tapper screw, and I'm going to ground to the structure of the vehicle right here. At this point, we're ready to test the remote starter. We're going to insert an OEM key into the ignition, and we're going to press our remote starter button on our single button remote. The vehicle is going to turn on, crank over, start and run for 20 minutes. This will test that all of our ignition wires are correct. We will shut the vehicle off and we'll continue on to the next step. 2 connections that we're going to need on this installation: parking lights and brake connection. We're at the BCM of the vehicle underneath the dash. If you look under the dash, the steering column comes down here. The BCM is located right here. Now we're going to have to test for these wires. They're both the same color. They're both violet with a white stripe, and there's a multitude of violet with a white stripe. Where I like to get the brake is at this plug of the BCM. To test for the brake, simply place your test light on the circuit, your grounded test light that is, on the circuit that you'd like to test, and activate the brakes by pushing the brake pedal. If this wire is incorrect, the light will not light. We're going to check the next violet with a white stripe. And when we have the light on there, we're going to press the brake. And that is going to turn on the test light. Our parking lights are located at the BCM also. Now they're always at this position in the plug. They're violet and white as well, but the color may vary between models. To test that, we're going to probe it and we're going to turn on the parking lights. The light will light up indicating we are on the correct wire. We'll now shut the parking lights off and the light will go out. At this point, we're going to apply our 3M taps to these circuits as well. The wires are plenty big enough to use taps in this application. To apply the taps, we're simply going to put the wire in the groove and lock the tap closed. We're going to plug in the appropriate wires from the Crime Stopper unit. The violet will go to the brake wire. The white will go to the parking light wire. We have already sourced our polarity select to positive for this application. If you buy this from me, the polarity select will already be sourced for positive, and you will not have to change that. When you buy this universal Ford kit from me, it will come with a transponder box with an induction ring. The transponder box wiring will already be integrated into the remote starter. This key will be embedded in the transponder box already, so there's no need to open it up. A lot of people say, hey, you didn't send me a key. That's because the key's embedded in the box already. This induction loop must be draped around the ignition, and I'll show you how it's done. First of all, this is the transponder box mechanism. Okay, the key is sealed inside. You do not have to open it. Our induction ring, when we ran our main ignition harness, we've left it hanging. We're going to drape it around the ignition barrel. It doesn't have to be an exact fit. It just has to hang here on the end for now. To program this device, we'll need to have 2 OEM keys. If you don't have 2 OEM keys, it won't program. The only thing you can do, if you have an extra key, you can open this box and you can embed your own key in this box. And then you wouldn't have to program it. Your remote starter would be done at this point. But to program this, I'm going to try to show you how to do it. We're going to watch a light on the dashboard while we're programming. We're going to be looking at the theft lock light while we're doing our programming. And we're going to pay attention to timing. These steps must be performed quickly, or the key will fail to program and you'll have to do the procedure over. We're going to have both of our OEM keys laid out on the seat so we can put them in the ignition smoothly and efficiently. We're also going to have the remote starter button ready so we can activate the remote starter as quickly as possible once we enter programming mode. To enter programming mode, we're going to place the first key in the ignition. We're going to turn it on for 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. We're going to shut it off, take it out, place key 2 in the ignition, turn it on for 3 seconds. 2, 3. Shut it off, take it out. Then we're going to activate the remote starter. The light should go solid. It should shut off, and the vehicle should crank and start. The key in the box is now programmed to this vehicle. To shut the vehicle off, we can push the brake pedal. By pushing the brake pedal, we've confirmed our brake connection is also correct. This 2008 Ford Taurus uses an integrated key to start the vehicle. This remote will function while the engine is running, but it doesn't have the distance capability that our single button long-range remote does. To start the vehicle, we're going to press the single button for 3 seconds and let it up. The parking lights on the vehicle are going to illuminate. The vehicle is going to start, run for 20 minutes. When we walk up to the vehicle, we're simply going to access the vehicle with our integrated key. The locks work while the engine is running, allowing us to open the door. I'm going to show you. The door is locked, and we can open the door. We can enter the vehicle, place the key in the ignition, turn the ignition to the on position, step on the brake, place the car in gear, and drive away. We're going to mount our antenna in this Ford vehicle. It's a 2008 Ford Taurus. First thing we're going to do is clean a spot on the windshield. Very important. One year I had to re-stick a lot of antennas because my guys didn't clean the windshield properly. So if you notice in all my videos, I clean the windshield very well before I stick the antenna up. Use alcohol or Windex. I like alcohol because it dries fast. going to peel the adhesive backing off of the antenna. This is a dipole. This type of antenna, we're going to place it in the middle of the vehicle, and we're going to press it to the glass. I'm going to take the wire. I'm going to grab this headliner. These are hard to grab. They can even be glued to the windshield if you've had your window replaced. So we're going to pull this headliner down while we push the wire up underneath. I like to feed a little bit of wire up in there while I'm doing it. Kind of like that. Now it's really stuck in this corner to the window. So we have it to this point. We're going to take our plastic tool, make a little gap here. We're going to push our wire into the gap and get it over to the door gasket. At this point, we're going to take the door gasket, peel it back, put the wire here, and then follow the wire down with the door gasket. Being careful to stay on the right side. Okay, we're under the dash in our 2008 Ford Taurus. I'm going to show you our wire routing and where we've mounted the remote starter. We've actually mounted the remote starter to the BCM, and we ran our harness down and we followed the main ignition harness all the way up to the steering column. We've also left our ring draped around the ignition switch. This ring must stay here the whole time you have the remote starter. Keep in mind that this system will work on all Fords with 40-bit and 80-bit keys. The key that is embedded is an 80-bit key that is backwards compatible, so it will work with 40-bit systems. Okay, we've mounted our key box right here underneath the dash. Fade back to give you a little idea of where we are. Have our ignition harness routed down the main harness of the vehicle. We're going to add a zip tie right here. And we've mounted the remote starter to the BCM.